J Jinx!
Truck stop!
This is JJ Jinx, gonna open a few knives and have a look. If you are a knife collector and you like good deals, I encourage you to check out the subreddit, the community on Reddit, Knife Deals. Stuff pops up, people post about it, coupon codes or whatever, and if you keep an eye out, you can spot some really good deals out there. The kind you just can't pass up. This is one of them. Tractor Supply Company. If you place an online order, they have some really heavily discounted deals on case knives right now. Don't know why. Don't care. But I'll go through and put the prices that I actually paid for these as the video goes. I got all three of these knives, combined price about $50, and all I really had to do was line up the order on my phone using their app and then drive out to the store and pick them up, and that was that. So there was one knife that they didn't have in stock that I had ordered at a very discounted price. I think it was a peanut for like $11 or maybe $13. I don't remember. Anyway, so I got this trio of case knives. They each have different packaging, which I know that's something that changes from time to time, so we'll see when we get to... Actually, these have a kind of a born-on date. This one says August of 2020, so this one's already 5 years old. Again, August of 2020. Kind of a different box, though. This one, I don't see a born-on date, so I think that's newer packaging. These are slightly older. What I ended up ordering were a couple of mini trappers and one full-sized trapper. I'm going to open the full-sized trapper first because, well, I actually don't have a full-sized case trapper. I have trapper knives, most of them like Rough Rider and such, and I've got my issues with them, my critiques, but I figured unless I were to actually buy and check out a case trapper, how much am I really just talking out of my ass? So my story with trappers and why I don't care for them is the following. Number one, because it's got the two blades, you kind of always have to have one down here at the handle, kind of covering the contours in the shape down here. So you never really get to know what it's like to get the knife, the feel of holding the handle with its contours and all that, because the blades just, there's always going to be a blade in the way, unless you open both of them. And then you can really feel the handle, and it's really good. It's really comfy. But you don't use knives like this. I mean, I suppose you could. So you just kind of don't get any advantage to that nice contouring, because you're always going to have one blade open and one blade closed. And it's not a bad feel with one blade closed. It's just kind of like, it shouldn't be different. So there's that. And the other thing is that it's quite a big knife. Just a bit too big for my EDC preferences. But why not try the mini trapper, you say, if you think this is a bit too big? My answer to that is that, while I do applaud the phenomenon of knives being made smaller and smaller, I've grown to love and appreciate smaller knives on the smaller side, the kind that could fit well into the fifth pocket. And Case is doing that, so is a lot of other knife companies for that matter. I mean, looking at you, Benchmade, for example. But The problem is that they make the little knives, but they charge the big knife prices. I'd like a little more of a discount if I'm getting something smaller, on the smaller side. And the other reason is, even though these knives are not too expensive, it's just not something I care enough about to want to go out and spend real money. So instead, when I spotted this sale, I said a yellow Delrin case full-size trapper for $17, I couldn't say no. And I've had a couple of their yellow Delrin lineup knives. It's kind of, they're just super discounted, cheaper stuff. And the quality control and fit and finish were always so questionable or poor. But in this case, just looking at it right now, I'm happy. I'm quite happy. I'm getting the full case experience right now. Very highly polished everything, including the back springs. No gaps. I mean, there might be a little bit of one kind of on this side. It looks like it in the camera, but I think that's just a shadow from the pile not being perfectly lined up. Bolsters are perfect and super well polished. I always like this part of the knife on the very bottom when you have the rounded bit that really gets to show off the polish there. That's just aesthetically pleasing. The walk and talk now, it's a little on the gritty-ish side. I don't think that's a problem. I think that'll smooth out over time. Most importantly, I'm not detecting any play in the clip point blade. And then this is one of the other issues I have with trappers is I don't get a lot of use out of the spay blade. Certainly not for what it is intended for. But one of the nice things about it is just it's a long, straight edge, which makes it easier to sharpen and good for slicing things where you need just a long cutting edge. And I suppose the blunted kind of tip is a bonus unless you need to stab something and cut that way, but that's what you got the clip point blade for. I think I would really enjoy a trapper if it just had the clip point blade only, which is kind of a similar-ish motif to what Cobra Tech has done with their hidden release trapper. You do have that subtle curvature in the handle, and it's just a single blade, and I adore this knife. This very, very quickly became one of my favorite knives. It's fun, fidgety, and it's just excellent. And for D2 steel, I gotta tell you, they heat treated that thing perfectly. But you can see it is roughly the same size as a full-size trapper, and it does not feel big to me for some reason, even though it is. Maybe a mini version of the hidden release trapper would be, on order Cobra Tech. But anyway, my point is that when there is a single blade in there, I immensely love the knife so much more. But I could be biasing myself because, like I said, I never had a trapper from Case, and now I do. For $17, especially since the quality control on this thing, it looks like they had the veteran technician on duty that day in the factory back in August 5 years ago. Okay, so, but I literally just bought this not only because it was a great price, but I wanted a basis for comparison for the mini trappers. Now, the mini trappers, they're going to be in a couple of different motifs. I don't know which one's which, so I'll just pick one. And the one knife that I didn't get because they ran out in the peanut was going to be in the same motif as one of these. 2023. So this one's August 2023. All of them from August for some reason. And so this is the Chestnut Bone Smooth Mini Trapper. Yeah. And it's literally just a scaled down trapper, but there are some differences here I'm noticing. Give it a good walk around. I see no gaps, super nice high polish. Already very happy with that. From the photos, I did notice the scales looked really, really dark, almost like a super dark brown. And I'm actually glad to see that that's not quite what this one looks like. It's more of a mocha sort of coloration to the die, with a little bit of splotchiness. I think that's a nice look for a bone handle. And on the other side, it is a bit darker. The scales are also super highly polished. That is so handsome. This is kind of one of them gentleman knife situations, I would say. And I don't normally go for smooth bone. I do like a little bit of jigging in my handle materials, but this is a handsome look. I think I'm in love with this knife already. Ooh, and another thing that some people love, some people hate, I'm sure most people are indifferent, is this one's got half stops. And wow, this is the part about case knives that I really like, is just how super well polished everything is. Like mirror finish. And I gotta check to see if they left the old factory burr. And in fact, they did. You can hear it. That is not smooth at all. Doesn't necessarily mean it's bad, but by contrast, I can't transmit how this feels through the camera, but I can definitely feel it's rough. But my experience has been that even though it feels rough, the point of me rubbing the stick on it is for consistency, looking for burrs, looking for chips and rolls. At least there's consistency to it, which I feel is more important. I can't tell how sharp it is doing this. I know I probably say this every time I do it. This is just feeling for consistency, because if it's a consistent grind, there is a tendency for it to be a well-done grind. And that's all I'm really looking for. I suppose I could do the whole paper thing, even though I'm not the biggest fan of it, because there's so many parameters that you're just ignoring when you do this. But, okay, and the way that it sort of raises up a little bit on the edges of that cut, I've seen that before with knives that could use a little bit of stropping. That could have been smoother, but certainly far from the worst. And so that is the clip point blade. The walk and tuck on this one is a lot smoother than the yellow Delrin. It's kind of already there. And then your Spay blade, also same super high polish job. And it's small enough you can close it one-handed just fine. I'm already liking the Mini Trapper a ton. I'd be interested to kind of get to know the hand feel a little bit more. The smooth bone, I'm trying to remember, I don't know. I don't think I have any case knives that have a very smooth bone finish or whatever. I mean, the synthetic, sure. So this will be interesting. Now, the other knife is, like I said, also Mini Trapper. It's not in the style that I normally would go out of my way to purchase or find. In other words, normally I would never buy this. I have no real good explanation, except I don't think I would like it. But for the price I paid for it, I had to give it a go. And it's white. It's a white. I'm actually not sure if it's bone or synthetic. Let's see if there says anything on here. Synthetic, white synthetic Standard Jig. So that's another thing, is that case has so many different jigging patterns. One example of my beloved tribal lock knife. It's got the pocket-worn Crandall jig, and I really love that look. I don't want to spend too much time talking about other knives I own, but Standard Jig. I just don't think I have a knife like one like that. I do now, and just from the photos and stuff, I'm like, I just don't know. It's there's something weird looking about it. It almost like excites those. Oh, what do they call that? Tryptophobia, whatever that's called, where it's like the unsettling feeling you get when you look at objects that have patterns of holes in them. It's a weird look, in my opinion. It looks sickly, good for Halloween, I suppose. And it's a bit rough, which I think is the point. But something like the pocket-worn Standard Jig, this feels like a massage on the fleshy part of your fingers and thumbs. This feels like you're scratching an itch, if that imparts some kind of feel over the interwebs. And one thing that I think really does help a little bit, the accent that's provided by the red colored shield right there in the scale, although the fit and finish on that ain't so great. I don't know if that's anodized or just painted or what, but there's some flecking, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Missing chunks, pieces, dings. It already looks a little used, is what I'm trying to say. Otherwise, checking out the pile, looking for gappage. I see none. And let's get this thing open. Also has a half stop. Nice polish. Nice little snap close, or open rather. And the same very rough, roughly finished edge, but probably cuts just fine. Where'd that paper go? Ooh. So way out at the tip, it really kind of smoothed out as that paper was going. When I cut paper, I try to start at the base, and as I draw the knife through, I end at the tip. That way I kind of get a feel, and it's more of a feel, like a sensation of how it cuts along the entire length of the blade. I think that's something that a lot of people just don't do when they do the paper thing. It's more of a and I'm like, you're just testing that one spot. Which, if you're sharpening your own knife and you're like, this is what the whole blade is like, I'm going to show you this one spot and the rest of it is that way too, that's fine. I'm trying to probe the properties of the cutting edge of a hole when I do that, and I just don't see a whole lot of people actually doing that when they cut the paper. I think people are just doing it wrong, I guess, but that's my opinion. There is blade play in this one. It's a little bit there, but more so than most slip joint knives I get that are brand new. Like I can feel that it is, well, it's there. Not to the point where it's like debilitating and terrible, but it's there, and the spade blade shares that play. So there's that case. I mean, when it comes to slip joint knives, here I am going to make excuses and be a case apologist now, but when it comes to slip joint knives, there's not a lot you can do about blade play. There's no screws to tighten or loosen. I have clamped knives into a vise before just to give it a little bit more of a squeeze, and then it's very easy to overdo it, and you just clamp shut your pivot, and then if you're not careful, you can leave mars and scratches on the surfaces. So I have tried to fix it that way, and it just didn't work out. There is an interesting defect that I'm not mad about, and I'm just spotting it down here in the bottom left corner where the scale meets the bolster. There's like a divot. You can kind of see it in the shadow of the white scale there. It's like a bit of the bone had chipped off, or maybe this was like the very edge of a larger panel of bone that, I don't know. So, I don't know what happened, but it's misshapen. It's not like the other one where it goes all the way to the edge in a nice continuous smooth transition, but rather it's upswept. You can kind of see it in the way that string of light is shining off of the bone there, or the scale, and the bolster was actually buffed to match that contouring right here. And I know from other case knives that I've grabbed, I've seen things like when a piece of jigging is way out at the edge by the bolster, it actually goes into the bolster a little bit and like dings it in. and then they just came through and polished it so it looked like it was done on purpose almost. But to me, that says the jigging doesn't happen until after the scales are in place. I guess that kind of makes sense because I would imagine that bone, oh, this is synthetic. I keep talking about bone though. It's brittle. It's soft but brittle at the same time. And if you do all the work of getting the jigging in place, and then you go to rivet everything together and then it cracks or breaks, you just get rid of it and redo it, I guess. But if you went through all the trouble of making the jigging pattern, it's a bit of a loss. And I don't know 100% for sure if any of that's true. It's just my observation, my explanation for what I'm observing. But that kind of what I like about it, I guess what I'm trying to get to is I appreciate the attention to those fit and finish details after the thing's assembled. It's not like they pin the thing and then it goes down a chute into a box and out to it ships, you know. They actually see, I can fix that. And they give them that individual attention. And so I know that a lot of people, including myself, has been very critical of Case's quality control as of late, past few years or so, maybe 4, 5, 6 years or so, especially with their budget lineup knives, the yellow Delrin being an example. But it's also something that, it's one of those your mileage varies kind of situations. I got a pretty good one this time that I know of so far from just opening it. I could buy 3 more and have 3 completely different levels of fit and finish. Who knows? Well, I do because I've observed it. So those were the Case knives that I picked up. Like I said, overall, I paid $50 for these 3. There was another one that I was tempted to get, but I can't remember what it was. I think it was the scales on it. I was like, nah, not my thing. And then while I was in there, the Tractor Supply companies have these bins up at the front where they put the kind of bargain bin area, the discounted stuff. And there's almost always knives in those bins. And indeed, there was one there today that I picked up. Sometimes it's like SOG, old timer, that sort of thing. And in my case, I got something from one of my favorite gas station truck stop brands, MTech USA. Normally sells for $9.99. I got it for $7.99. And the reason I picked this up was twofold. Number one, it's MTech, J.J. Jinx's bread and butter. Also, it was not expensive. And third, I am going on a road trip in about a week and a half, and I need to pick a knife that I'm going to bring with me, which I normally never do. I kind of have this ostentatious attitude of, I don't bring knives with me on road trips. I use what I find on the road, in the wild. This time I decided maybe I will bring one, and this is what I'm choosing. Having never even opened it, handled it, played with it, it might be awful and terrible, and it probably is. What I found interesting about it was the colorations. We have an interesting looking metallic scale with kind of a very riveted industrial looking pattern, almost like 2.5D kind of thing going on. Let's break in this trapper and see how it handles the hard clamshell plastic. And of course it handles it just fine because, well, it's not hard to cut this stuff, it turns out. Let me see if there's anything on the package that sounds interesting. Handles are anodized aluminum. It claims a camo-coated 3 CR13 MOV blade steel. Liner lock, spring assisted, 7 3/4 inches overall with a 3 1/4 inch blade. And unlike the Case knives, the one thing that MTech offers that they do not. Bink! This is model 1049 TNCS. Not very comfy. A lot of hot spots. It's not bad, though. The hot spots aren't terrible. but it's mostly centered around the pocket clip, which is of the deep carry variety. I like this kind that has the little swoop at the end. They're kind of reminiscent of a lot of Kaiser's pocket clips. We got the 2 screws with the slot cut out so you can access them. The tension is pretty good. I've felt better, I've felt worse. That's a Goldilocks zone right there. That should do just fine. Out of the package, literally out of the package, it's already open. The lockup is very good looking. I can see Teflon spacers down in there. We do have jimping on the back, and we have some kind of an amalgamation of a sheep's foot / clip point blade. Not clip point. We have some kind of a combination of a clip point / drop point. Let me try that again. We have some kind of an amalgamation between a sheep's foot and a drop point blade, how it does drop down but in a very discreet angular kind of fashion, and the digital gray and green camo just looks ridiculous. And I mean that in a good way. Closing the knife, I did detect a little bit of lock stick. Sometimes that goes away, sometimes it doesn't, and it just gets worse. The centering looks fine though, and there is a flipper, which a lot of people are not fans of, but I am. And that opens really well, nice and solid. The scales are very smooth for what they look like. And so I think this, as a road trip knife, will do me just fine. Since most of the time, I'm just going to carry it, not really use it. Let's be honest, I'm there to vacation, not to go out using knives all the time. And you got yourself the lanyard hole built right into that black back spacer, which has a bunch of jipping down there for some reason. Yeah, there you have it. Between the MTech knife and the 3 cases, $58. Not a bad haul. I think this one, if I were to pick one to be my favorite of the bunch, it would be the Smooth Bone Trapper. I guess I'm going to call it right now. This one's my favorite of the bunch so far. It is super shiny everywhere, made really well, feels really solid, no play. It feels really ideal for me to venture into the world of carrying and using trapper knives. And the price was right. I wish I had a little bit more snap on the closing, though. I suppose that's one of the drawbacks of having a mini knife, is that there's just less material. Well, that one snapped pretty well. Less material to move, lighter blades, less momentum. But it's a slip joint knife. It's not necessarily supposed to have momentum to it. That's just a nice bonus when it does happen, in my opinion. And I guess, I'm not sure if I've seen people do this yet. I'm sure they have. But with the white synthetic variety of knives, I think there's a really good opportunity for dyeing. The RIT dyeing community, I would imagine, would jump on something like that. It's a nice primed canvas for your coloration needs. Although I've never done that before, and I'm not sure if the dye would get all inside of it and gunk up anything, or I guess it wouldn't stain the steel, or maybe it does. I don't know. But my point is that this scale is not removable, so maybe it introduces difficulties. I'm not sure. And the other thing is, looking at them just side by side like this, having never handled a mini trapper before, I appreciate that you can see the scale difference between the two, and I mean the scale as in the sizes, not the handle scales. It really is significantly smaller in all dimensions. And one of the other differences that I forgot to point out earlier that I kind of noticed was there is a difference in the shape of the handle, that kind of bulge roughly in the middle by the shield. It's subtle right there. It's absent from the mini trapper. And I think that's probably a good thing, because what I've experienced in the past when getting mini versions of knives that were just one-to-one scaled down versions is that things that are designed for comfort end up not being so comfortable. And so I'd rather not know and have it be absent, you know what I mean? And that's all I've got to say for now. I'll be back from my road trip towards the end of August with a whole plethora of video content for you. This has been JJ Jigs Truck Stop Knives!